northern Iraq, along the east bank of the Tigris River, opposite the city of Mosul, lie the ruins of the ancient city of Nineveh, a place originally inhabited by the Sumerians of Mesopotamia.
What if an ancient Sumerian tablet recorded a warning so terrifying that 90,000 people abandoned the surface and went underground? Hidden for thousands of years, this mysterious tablet from Lagash tells the story of a massive evacuation, sealed stone doors, and a strange affliction that descended from above. The record claims entire populations fled beneath the earth, while watchers monitored a world that had suddenly become deadly. Even more shocking, those who returned to the surface became sick, and many never survived. Was this simply an ancient account of disaster, or was it describing something far beyond its time? What really waited above? Join us to find out. The Forgotten Sumerian Tablet. In November 2021, a remarkable discovery was made deep inside the basement storage rooms of the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. What began as a routine examination of old archaeological materials soon turned into something far more mysterious. An Iraqi-Italian restoration team was sorting through forgotten artifacts when they came across a wooden crate. The crate was old, dusty, and covered with signs of age. Written on its side were the words, Tel al-Hiba, 1968 season, unclassified material. Tel al-Hiba is the modern name of the ancient Sumerian city of Lagash. Thousands of years ago, Lagash was one of the largest and most powerful cities in the world. It was a major center of culture, trade, and government during the 3rd millennium BCE. The artifacts inside the crate had been collected during excavations in 1968. However, political problems interrupted the work before researchers could fully study everything they had found. The materials were sent to Baghdad, packed away, and then forgotten. For decades, the crate remained untouched in museum storage. It survived some of the most difficult periods in Iraq's modern history. It remained safe through 3 wars. It survived the looting of the museum in 2003. It even endured flooding that damaged lower storage levels in 2015. For more than 50 years, nobody knew exactly what was hidden inside. When the restoration team finally opened the crate, they discovered 11 clay tablets. At first glance, the tablets appeared ordinary. Most were damaged and covered with layers of salt that had built up over time. Parts of the ancient writing had faded or broken away. The team carefully began cleaning and studying them. 10 of the tablets turned out to be typical administrative records. They contained information about grain storage, labor assignments, temple supplies, and other routine matters. These kinds of records are common in ancient Mesopotamian archaeology. But the 11th tablet was different. It immediately caught the attention of the researchers. Unlike the others, it was larger and thicker. It contained dense writing arranged in 3 columns on both sides. Even beneath the crusted salt deposits, it was clear that this tablet held far more text than the rest. Conservator Marco de Gregorio began the delicate task of cleaning it. Slowly and carefully, he removed the layers of salt that had covered the surface for decades. As the writing became visible, something unusual appeared. The first column did not look like an economic record. It was not a list of supplies. It was not an inventory. It was not a report about grain or workers. Instead, it seemed to tell a story. Realizing the importance of the find, de Gregorio photographed the tablet and sent the images to Ali al-Hashimi, an epigraphist with the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities. Al-Hashimi immediately began translating the ancient cuneiform signs. That same evening, he started preparing a preliminary transliteration. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. Al-Hashimi contacted the project leader. He believed there might be a mistake in his work. The text he was reading did not resemble anything he expected to find. Normally, texts from ancient Lagash described temple activities, administrative matters, royal achievements, or the destruction of cities. This tablet described something entirely different. It spoke of a massive movement of people. According to the text, a huge population was gathered together and relocated underground. At first, al-Hashimi suspected that he had misread part of the inscription. The wording seemed too unusual. Yet every time he checked the signs, the same translation appeared. The tablet used the term ug-shushi. Within Sumerian administrative language, this term referred to the gathering of people for relocation. The text then provided a number, 25 shar. Ancient Sumerians used a numerical system based on 60. Within that system, one share represented 3,600. When the figure was calculated, the result was astonishing. 25 share equaled 90,000. 90,000 people. According to the tablet, 90,000 individuals were assembled and moved below the surface. The statement was unlike anything the researchers expected to encounter, yet the mystery grew even deeper. The second column explained why the relocation took place. The text described conditions that existed on the surface after the final stone doors were sealed from the inside. Something had happened above ground. Whatever it was, the people described in the text believed it was serious enough to abandon the surface world and retreat beneath the earth. At this stage, the researchers knew they were dealing with something extraordinary. Still, the most intriguing section remained hidden. The third column was located on the reverse side of the tablet. Unfortunately, heavy salt deposits covered much of the writing. Cleaning it would require extreme care. The work continued for another 2 weeks. Bit by bit, more of the ancient text emerged. As the final signs became visible, the last part of the story began to take shape. This section described what happened when the underground shelters were eventually opened again. It told of a time when people finally returned to the surface after a long absence. What they found waiting above was important enough to be recorded forever in clay. But the most chilling detail came next. According to the tablet, most of those who went back to the surface never returned underground. The text ended with that haunting statement. No explanation followed. No detailed account survived to clarify what happened. Only the unsettling record remained. A forgotten clay tablet, hidden inside a sealed crate for more than half a century, had preserved a story unlike any other found among the ordinary records of ancient Lagash. What did they find above? What made them lock themselves underground? Stay with us. The living horror from the sky. The second column of the Lagash tablet begins with a phrase unlike anything found in other known Sumerian writings. Ancient records often spoke about sickness, disasters, punishment, and suffering. However, this particular phrase seemed completely different from the rest. It immediately caught the attention of the researchers studying the tablet. The words appeared to describe something unusual and frightening. The deeper they looked, the stranger the story became. The passage begins with the words, Anta namtagal ede. These words can be translated as the great affliction descending from above. At first, the phrase may sound similar to many ancient descriptions of disease or divine punishment. The Sumerian word namtag appears in many surviving texts from that period. It was commonly used to describe illness, suffering, misfortune, or punishment. Because of this, the researchers first believed the tablet was describing a familiar type of disaster. However, one small detail changed everything. The scribe added a special determinative to the word namtag. In Sumerian writing, determinatives were used to provide extra meaning and help identify the nature of something. This particular determinative was used only for living beings. It was normally reserved for humans, animals, and gods. That tiny symbol completely changed the meaning of the passage. Because of this marking, the affliction was no longer described as a simple event. It was not classified as a flood, a storm, or an earthquake. It was not treated as a falling object from the sky. Instead, the scribe identified it as something alive. This detail made the text far more mysterious than anyone expected. It suggested that whatever descended from above was viewed as a living presence. The tablet continues with a description spread across 11 lines. When Ali al-Hashimi first examined this section, he believed the damaged surface had made some parts difficult to read. He thought missing signs might have caused confusion in the translation. After careful study, however, he reached a different conclusion. The lines were not unclear at all. They were simply very detailed and difficult to accept. According to the text, the affliction moved across the land in waves. It did not travel on foot, like a person or animal. The verb used by the scribe is dal, a word meaning to fly or hover. This suggests movement through the air, rather than along the ground. The description creates the image of something passing over the landscape from above. It moved steadily from place to place as people watched in fear. The text also describes a terrible sound that accompanied its movement. The sound is called unearthed, which means a great wailing roar. According to the tablet, the noise affected everyone who heard it. Animals became frightened and ran wildly across the land. Children suddenly fell silent. Fear spread ahead of the affliction wherever it approached. What makes the account even more unusual is what the tablet does not describe. There are no reports of armies attacking cities. There are no broken walls, burned buildings, or scenes of destruction. Nothing suggests a traditional invasion or military conflict. Instead, the text says entire populations fled before the affliction arrived. People abandoned their homes and escaped while they still had the chance. The tablet carefully separates this event from ordinary destruction. The cities themselves were not ruined. Their buildings remained standing. Their walls remained intact. Yet the people were gone. The settlements were emptied rather than destroyed. According to the text, the approach of the affliction alone was enough to cause mass evacuations. The account then becomes even darker. The tablet explains what happened to those who remained on the surface. The word used is ush, which means to kill. However, the word appears alongside two additional terms that change its meaning. One term means from the outside, while the other refers to breath or life force. Together, they describe death caused by something removing life itself. The underground city. The first column of the Lagash tablet reads very differently from a myth or legend. Instead of telling a dramatic story, it presents events in a careful and organized way. Every action is recorded step by step. The language feels more like an official report than a piece of ancient folklore. The details are precise and methodical. This has made the text one of the most intriguing parts of the tablet. According to the record, the leaders of Lagash received an early warning from observers stationed at Eridu. These observers were called Igidu, a term meaning those who see first. In administrative records, the word was often used for scouts placed at elevated locations. Their role was to watch distant areas and report anything unusual. The warning they delivered arrived before the danger reached the region. Because of this, the city had enough time to prepare a response. The tablet describes the evacuation as a carefully planned operation. Nothing appears rushed or disorganized. Instead, the movement of the population followed a structured process divided into 3 phases. Each phase had a specific purpose. Each step was completed before the next one began. The record suggests that the authorities already knew exactly what needed to be done. The first phase was called shudu. The term means the count of hands. Researchers believe this refers to a census of the population. Every household was recorded and counted. Every family was placed into an assigned group. Each group was then directed toward a particular underground location. The tablet describes these underground locations using a symbol that translates as sealed house beneath the earth. This wording suggests that the shelters were not temporary hiding places. They appear to have been permanent structures prepared for large numbers of people. The organization required for such an effort was enormous. Families were sorted, assigned, and prepared before any movement began. Everything followed a clear plan. The second phase was known as Gaba Ankur. This phrase means possessions were moved down. Before people entered the underground chambers, supplies were transported below the surface. Grain, water, livestock, oil, seeds, and bronze tools were all moved into storage areas. The population would need these resources to survive for an extended period. The tablet records this transfer with remarkable detail. One section lists the amount of grain assigned to each family. The record states that every household received 14 gur of barley. 1 gur was equal to approximately 300 liters. For 25,000 households, this represented around 7.5 million liters of grain. Such a quantity would have provided food for a very large population over a long period. The scale of the preparation is difficult to ignore. The movement of supplies happened before the people entered the shelters. This detail is important because it shows that survival underground had been carefully considered. Food and water were not gathered at the last moment. They were transported in advance according to a specific plan. The operation required coordination across the entire region. Every step appears to have been organized long before the danger arrived. The third phase carried the name Igal Ba and Dub. The phrase means the great doors were sealed. According to the tablet, enormous stone doors protected the underground network. These doors could be rolled into place from the inside. Once closed, they created a barrier that could not be opened from the surface. The design ensured that whatever remained above could not follow the population below. The tablet uses the term Narua Igal for these entrances. The phrase translates literally as Great Stone Mouth. The image is striking. Massive openings leading underground were closed and locked from within. The entrances became sealed gateways separating two worlds. One remained above ground, while the other disappeared beneath the earth. The scribe records that 17 separate entrances were sealed at the same time. This detail reveals the scale of the underground system. The shelters were not a single cave or tunnel. They formed a network spread across the region of Lagash. Such a structure required planning, resources, and labor. It appears to have been built long before the emergency occurred. The third column of the tablet focuses on what happened after the population disappeared underground. This section is told through the observations of watchers stationed near ventilation shafts. These narrow stone channels connected the underground chambers to the surface. Their main purpose was to provide fresh air. However, they also allowed limited observation of the world above. The shafts were too narrow for anything to enter. Even so, they were large enough for the watchers to see small portions of the sky. They could also hear sounds coming from outside. Through these openings, they monitored conditions on the surface. Their observations became part of the official record. What they described was deeply unsettling. For the first 3 days, a strange roaring sound echoed across the land. The tablet says the sound became louder and then faded repeatedly. It seemed to move in cycles. The watchers believed the affliction was passing through the region in repeated sweeps. Each wave brought the terrifying noise closer before it drifted away again. The pattern continued for several days. The observers also reported what happened to animals left on the surface. According to the text, livestock passed on within only a few hours. The deaths did not occur gradually. The tablet uses a phrase meaning they fell as one. The animals collapsed at the same time. Whatever affected them acted quickly and without warning. On the fourth day, everything changed. The great roaring sound suddenly stopped. Silence spread across the land. Yet the watchers still refused to recommend opening the doors. Something they observed through the ventilation shafts convinced them to remain underground. The damaged text does not preserve every detail, but enough survives to reveal their concern. The tablet describes a change in the sky itself. The word used combines brightness with wrongness. It does not refer to darkness or an eclipse. Instead, the light appeared altered. The world above no longer looked normal. According to the watchers, the environment itself had changed. The danger seemed to remain even after the affliction disappeared. So why didn't they go back to the surface? Let's find out. Why they never returned above. The population of Lagash did not return to life on the surface after the first attempts failed. According to the tablet, the people made a different choice. Instead of moving upward again, they traveled deeper underground. They expanded their network of tunnels and passageways, creating new connections with underground systems located to the southeast. The text suggests that survival became their main priority. Returning to the surface was no longer seen as a safe option. As the months passed, the underground population began to adapt to its new reality. What may have started as a temporary refuge slowly became a permanent home. The tablet describes a society that reorganized itself beneath the earth. The people adjusted their daily lives to underground conditions. They developed ways to continue living without depending on the surface. Every decision appears to have been focused on long-term survival. The surviving lines of the tablet explain that agriculture was restructured around underground water sources. Rather than relying on rivers and fields above ground, the population learned to use resources found beneath the surface. Food production was adapted to their new environment. Water became one of their most important assets. The text presents a community that gradually changed its way of life in order to endure. The entrances leading to the surface remained sealed. According to the tablet, these doors stayed closed for a period described as 3 generations. This was not a matter of weeks or months. It represented a very long span of time. The people underground continued to treat the surface as a dangerous place. Even after many years had passed, the barriers remained in place. One of the most debated parts of the tablet involves the illnesses experienced by those who ventured above ground. The text describes several symptoms in surprising detail. People who returned to the surface reportedly suffered burning of the skin, severe sickness, rapid weakness, loss of strength, and confusion. Some became blind. Others passed on only days after their exposure. These accounts appear repeatedly throughout the surviving sections of the record. Researchers have noted that these symptoms do not fit neatly into many common natural disasters. The descriptions differ from what would normally be expected after volcanic fallout. They also do not resemble the slow effects of famine caused by climate change or environmental collapse. Likewise, the account does not match traditional descriptions of plague. Another unusual detail is the shining dust that reportedly covered the landscape. The tablet repeatedly mentions a bright residue spread across the ground and structures. This material is described as a fine dust that remained long after the original affliction had passed. The surface environment itself appeared altered. The rivers looked different. The light in the sky appeared different. Even after the immediate danger was gone, the land remained hazardous to those who entered it. Because of these details, some observers have privately discussed possible modern comparisons. They have pointed out that several symptoms described in the tablet resemble those associated with acute radiation exposure. The burning skin, severe sickness, rapid physical decline, blindness, and death within days are among the reasons such comparisons have been raised. The glowing dust mentioned in the text has also attracted attention. Some have suggested that the shining residue resembles descriptions of radioactive fallout. In modern terms, fallout consists of particles that settle onto the environment and continue affecting the surrounding area. The altered appearance of the sky has also become part of these discussions. Certain readers have wondered whether the phrase describing brightness mixed with wrongness could reflect unusual atmospheric conditions. These ideas remain subjects of private debate rather than accepted conclusions. The tablet itself does not identify the source of the disaster. It never names a weapon. It never explains exactly what caused the affliction. Instead, it focuses on what happened afterward. The record describes the evacuation, the sealed shelters, the failed attempts to return, and the long struggle to survive underground. Its attention remains fixed on the consequences rather than the cause. This is one reason the text has attracted so much interest. The scribe was not trying to explain a scientific process. He was recording events as he understood them. Using the language available in his own time, he described a deadly environment that continued harming people long after the original danger disappeared. The observations are presented in a direct and practical manner. There is very little effort to speculate about what created the catastrophe. For some researchers, this makes the tablet even more puzzling. The medical details appear surprisingly specific. The sequence of symptoms described in the text has led some readers to believe the account contains observations that seem unusually precise. Others remain cautious and argue that many interpretations are possible. The limited number of surviving lines leaves room for debate. What remains certain is that the tablet tells an extraordinary story. It describes a population that abandoned the surface world and created a new existence beneath the earth. It speaks of sealed entrances, underground survival, and generations spent away from daylight. It records repeated failures to reclaim the world above. Most importantly, it preserves the memory of a disaster that ancient witnesses believed was severe enough to keep an entire society underground for years. Now, what does the world do? What's the way forward? Stick around. The 4,000 years wait. Ali al-Hashimi completed his transliteration of the mysterious Lagash tablet in January 2022. After months of careful work, he finally had a readable version of the text. The contents were unlike anything he expected to find on an ancient Sumerian tablet. The story described within its columns appeared both detailed and unsettling. Knowing the importance of the discovery, he decided to share his work with a small group of trusted colleagues. The transliteration was sent to 3 scholars located at different universities. One worked at the University of Pennsylvania, Another was based at SOAS in London. The third scholar was affiliated with Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. Each received the same material and was asked to evaluate the findings. Their reactions, however, were very different. The scholar in Pennsylvania responded quickly and positively. He expressed excitement about the discovery and believed the text deserved further attention. He even suggested that the work could be published jointly in the Journal of Cuneiform Studies. To him, the tablet appeared important enough to begin serious academic discussion. His response encouraged further efforts to bring the text into the scholarly world. The reaction from London was more cautious. The SOAS scholar requested high-resolution photographs of the tablet before offering any opinion. Rather than immediately supporting or rejecting the findings, he wanted stronger visual evidence. This was a reasonable request. Ancient texts often require careful examination before conclusions can be reached. For him, the photographs would be essential before making any judgment. The response from Munich was the most surprising. For 6 weeks, no answer arrived. Then a brief message finally appeared. The scholar stated that publication would be premature and argued that the tablet required independent physical verification before any further action could be taken. His reply was short and cautious. It offered no enthusiasm and little discussion. Despite these mixed reactions, al-Hashimi continued moving forward. In March 2022, he submitted a preliminary paper to the Journal of Near Eastern Studies. He hoped the journal would review the findings and begin the process of academic evaluation. Instead, the submission was returned without review. The explanation given was straightforward. The journal stated that it was not accepting articles based on unpublished artifacts lacking institutional verification. Such decisions are not uncommon in academic publishing. Journals often require strict verification procedures before reviewing newly discovered material. Under normal circumstances, the matter might have ended there. Yet, what happened next attracted far more attention than the rejection itself. In June 2022, the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities changed the classification of the Lagash tablet. The artifact was placed into Restricted Access Category 2. This designation is normally reserved for objects considered highly significant to national heritage. Access to such items requires ministerial approval and special authorization. The decision immediately raised questions among those familiar with the tablet's history. Only months earlier, the artifact had been sitting unnoticed in an unclassified crate. That crate had spent decades in storage after surviving wars, looting, and flooding. For more than 50 years, nobody had paid special attention to it. Suddenly, it had been elevated to the same level of protection given to some of Iraq's most treasured archaeological objects. The change was remarkable. Al-Hashimi was informed that any future work on the tablet would require a formal research application. The application would then be reviewed by a committee that met only twice each year. Additional restrictions soon followed. Requests were made for photographs of the tablet to be removed from personal and institutional devices. Whether every copy was actually removed remains unknown. The details have never been publicly clarified. Today, the tablet remains inside the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. It has not received a publicly assigned catalog number. Access remains limited. The transliteration survives within the private files of 4 scholars who have examined the text. None of them have formally published their findings. None have publicly discussed the contents in detail. Their silence has only added to the mystery surrounding the artifact. The tablet itself describes an event that does not fit neatly into any established archaeological category. According to the transliteration, it records a living affliction descending from above. It describes people dying without obvious physical injury. It tells of a carefully organized evacuation involving thousands of people moving into an underground network through 17 separate entrances. The account is presented with unusual precision and attention to detail. The text also describes a surface environment that remained dangerous long after the original event ended. People who returned reportedly became ill within a short period of time. The symptoms included burning skin, sickness, weakness, blindness, and death. The tablet further describes a population that adapted to life beneath the earth and remained there for generations. These details have become the focus of ongoing private discussions among those who have studied the text. Many of the questions raised by the tablet remain unanswered. If the evacuation was carefully planned, who provided the warning? If the underground infrastructure already existed, why was it built in the first place? If the described symptoms resemble something unfamiliar to ancient history, what caused them? The tablet offers no direct explanation. It records events without attempting to solve the mystery behind them. Today, only a small number of people are known to have examined the transliteration. Public discussion remains limited. The questions raised by the tablet continue to linger. The artifact remains in Baghdad. The record survives exactly as its creator intended. The doors were sealed from the inside. The story was preserved in clay. And after 4,000 years of silence, the mystery still remains. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.